Hi everyone. Hi. Yes, hi Kartike. I'm waiting for a few of you to join in and then we can begin the session. Hi Anshul. I'm just waiting for Rahul to join in and then we can begin because it's already 4:16. Rahul, please message if you are there. Okay, I can see Rahul there. Hi everyone, I am Meenakshi Johri and I'll be taking this live session and I'll be guiding you through the process of writing and I'll be explaining the requirements, the forms of writing, and I'll be touching on different aspects that can help you in becoming a good writer. So I'll begin by introducing myself. I am an author. I write short stories, poetries, and I write articles for magazines like Women's Era, Alive. Now these two are a part of Delhi Press. And I have also been writing articles for newspapers like Speaking Tree, the section that comes along with Times of India. I have written a lot of short stories that have been anthologized widely, and I have worked with several leading publishers of India like Rupa Publications and Hachette India. Now, besides my regular job of teaching language to the children, I am also into reviewing books, and I have been doing that since 2015. So it has been quite a long journey. And now, at present, I review books for Rupa, Penguin, Hachette, Half Baked Beans. So all these publishers I have been working with. Now, other than that, I have conceptualized and edited two anthologies. One of them is called Unbounded Trajectories, and I have a copy to show you. This is the book. It consists of stories that basically talk about life and the adversities associated with it. And another book that I have conceptualized is Poison Ivy. That's called, this is the book. Now again, this describes, or this is the collection of stories that talk about the toxicity that is prevalent in the society. So these are the two books that I have worked on so far, and at present I'm working on another third anthology that's called Cryptic Encounters, and it is being published by Ink Quills Publishers. So this is what is there on my plate at the moment. I have also finished my first book and have started pitching it to the leading publishers of India already. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed and hoping for the best results. Now, other than this, I have been a part of several editing companies and I have edited content. I have also worked as a content writer for some substantial time. So I think you would have figured out already that I lay emphasis on language way too much. So that's why in my profile you would have seen that I'm a grammar goblin. So in this session, I'm going to be talking about how language plays a very important role when it comes to writing. So I'll give you an outline of what this session is going to be comprised of. So I have to make it easier. I have divided this session into 4 parts. The first part we'll be talking about understanding the forms of writing. Now this is one of the very confusing topics, and as far as I can recall, several of the authors, several of my friends have been asking me to elucidate on what are the forms of writing and how to understand them. So I'm going to simplify that for you. The second part of the session will be focused on the requirements of writing, what all are the needs or what all are the habits that you can incorporate in your daily life in order to become a good writer. The third section the third part of this session will be focused on the process of writing. To be very clear, I will not be going into the details of publishing, because before you publish a book or before you complete a book, I feel that you should be able to write something that has quality and that has content that can connect with the readers. The last part of the session will be focused on some quick tips and tricks that will help you become successful in this literary journey. So I guess we are ready. So I'll begin with the first part of the session. The first part is basically forms of writing. Now, when we were in school, we would have come across these forms of writing, but at that time, I'm very sure that nobody paid attention to these. So basically, there are 4 forms of writing: narrative, descriptive, expository, and persuasive. Now, narrative writing, the word derives from the word called narration. So narrative writing, the purpose of narrative writing is basically to tell a story. So any literary piece that tells you a story, that it forms a narrative. It can contain characters, it can contain situations, plot, conflict, solution, and eventually an action plan. Now, all the novels that you read, Harry Potter for an instance, Percy Jackson, all these are narrative writings. These are basically where you think of a plot, the story flows in a chronological order, and you wait for the characters to encounter the problem, and eventually you reach the conclusion. Now, in narrative writing, there are 2 ways in which you can conclude your story. One is a solid ending that you provide, and another one is called a cliffhanger, when you leave it up to the readers to figure out how the story is supposed to end. That's your narrative form. Other examples of narrative writing include poetry writing, autobiographies, biographies, then anecdotes form another example of short stories, for narrative writing. Now, the second form of writing is expository writing. The word expository has been derived from the word expose. So any piece of writing that exposes you to something or explains something to you, that's called expository writing. Now, you would have come across YouTube having all those titles like how to make this, how to make that, the DIY videos, and then the articles that tell you how to achieve this, how to do this. In fact, this live session, although it's not a form of writing, but it is again exposition, because I'm going to explain something to you. So that is an example of expository writing. Now, the purpose, like I said, is to explain. It is subject oriented, because when you're explaining something, you stay with the facts. This form of writing does not contain facts or opinions or justifications, because it is purely based on the knowledge that is available in the public domain. So what you need to do is basically you need to explain a concept or a topic that you have chosen, and you just write about it. The target is to basically tell your audience or tell your readers what this topic is all about. So that's your expository writing. Third form is the descriptive writing. It is known to be one of the easiest forms, but it is very difficult to write, because, for example, say if I ask you to describe your room, these were the kind of essays we used to get in the school. I hope all of us remember. At that time, or even at this age, if you ask someone to describe something, it might sound very easy, but when you take a pen and you start writing, it is one of the most difficult tasks one can do. So that's why descriptive form of writing is very difficult to execute. But once you are aware, when you are exposed to enough words and their usage and the figurative language and its meaning, then it becomes a little easier. So descriptive writing is fine. I think all of us do know it, but we don't do it. The last form is the persuasive writing. If you would have participated in debates in your school or in your college, that form of writing, the speech that you would have written, is called debatable or argumentative or persuasive writing. Now, persuasive writing, the purpose of persuasive writing is basically to persuade or to convince your audience. Now, once your target of convincing your audience has been achieved, now that can be done only when your article has judgments, reasons, your opinions, your point of view, and a language that focuses or that gives you the liberty to express your opinions in a very constructive way. So the idea is not to offend anyone, but at the same time put across whatever your thoughts are in a very convincing way. Now, the examples of persuasive writing, advertisements are examples of persuasive writing, because in advertisement, the whole idea is to basically persuade the viewers to buy a product. Other than that, the cover letters that you write are an example of persuasive writing. Book reviews are persuasive writing. Editorials are an example of persuasive writing. So all these form and fall under the category of persuasive writing. Now that I have discussed the 4 types of writing, I would like to share something that I am into. I am in that stage of life where I am experimenting with all 4 types of writings. It is very important when you are a writer to identify your niche. Once you are able to identify your niche, only then can you move ahead and basically go ahead pursuing that genre or pursuing that form or style of writing and then excelling in it. So experimentation is very important. And that is what I am doing these days, because I have started writing an editorial for one of the online magazines called Different Truths. And my column is called Odds and Evens, and it is published every Tuesday. Now that is a form of persuasive writing that I am pursuing. I know a lot of P's are happening here. Now, when it comes to descriptive writing, descriptive writing, right, like I said, it's not something that you can describe a room or describe a weather and post it on a blog. It just comes automatically. Now, descriptive paragraphs basically form a section of your story. So the entire story cannot be descriptive, but a narrative story can have a descriptive paragraph. So that's where the skill to describe something, skill to implement description of something using figurative language, using idiomatic expressions comes in. So it is very important for you to understand what kind of language the authors use in order to convey what they want to express. Okay, so now the first section is done. Now I want you all to please put it in the comment section if there are any questions about all the parts that we'll be covering. And maybe in the end, I'll take up your questions and try to answer them as best as possible. So I would like to move on to the second section now. The second part of today's session will talk about the requirements of writing. Now this is, whatever I'm going to tell you, this is based on purely personal experience. When I was in school, yes, it was an English medium convent school, but the problem was we were not given, we were not emphasized, or we were not told, or it was not made compulsory for us to speak in English all the time. So obviously the base was weak, and it took a lot of effort to reach where I am today, because it took a lot of learning, it took a lot of exposure, experience to be able to understand the structure of the language that I'm communicating in. So it doesn't matter whether you communicate in Hindi or English or any other of your native language. It is important that you respect the language in which you're writing or communicating. For that, it is very important for you to understand the structure. I'll give you an example. It is similar to pursuing or learning a foreign language. If you want to learn, for example, if you want to learn German, for an instance, you cannot just learn 2-3 greetings and say that you are a pro or professional in German. You need to understand the structure, you need to frame the language, you need to put all the components together so that it is a full piece of cloth that you are adorning on your body. Same way with English. Most of the writers that I see love to speak in English, love to update their Facebook status in English. But the flaw that I find is that the English is not, it's not that there is a flaw in English, it's just that they care very less to improvise on the language skills. Now, being a language teacher, I think it is a moral obligation of mine to emphasize how important language is. And that's what brings us to the next part of the session, that is the requirement. The first requirement, I think all the authors are going to say that it is very important to read. Now, if you begin reading today, you cannot assume that you'll become an author tomorrow. It is very important to read from a very young age, imbibe as much of knowledge as you can, and then eventually it will shape into something productive. Now, reading is basically, the purpose of reading is to get acquainted with the vocabulary. The purpose is to get acquainted with the physical appearance of the words. In literary terms, we call that phonetics. So unless you are aware of all those things, you are not going to be able to implement that in your language. Reading also helps you to associate the references that the author is trying to make with what he's thinking. So that's the contextual meaning that you have to associate with. If you remember, when we were in school, we were always told by the English teachers to read between the lines. Now, if I'm very sure most of you must be knowing the meaning, please put it in the comments if you already know it. But that is one thing that stuck with me forever. Reading between the lines has a figurative meaning. It doesn't actually mean that you have to dig into the text and then understand, but that calls for a lot of research. You will be able to read between the lines once you are thorough with the process of reading. When you write something, you would definitely want people or your readers to read between the lines and understand your state of mind when you are writing something. For example, if I'm writing a poetry and I'm not in a very good mood and I'm writing because something has affected me very badly, I want the readers to get the same feeling. In case they find it as amusing or in case they find it funny, it's of no use. The purpose of my writing fades. Same way, if I'm writing an opinionated piece, if I'm trying to convey something that I'm not happy about, my tone or my intonation or the language has to be so proper that it has to convey the readers the same feeling. And that can only come when you are exposed to different forms of reading. Like for example, Mark Twain is known for his sarcastic comments and his take on problems in a very amusing or a funny way. So that's why I like Mark Twain. Nicholas Sparks is known as one of the best romance writers. Now, he is known for that because the language he uses is so intense that it makes you fall in love with the characters. Other than these two, there is Agatha Christie. Her novels are known for mystery. Now, it's not that she has identified a niche and then her novels obviously speak volumes about the kind of mindset the protagonist must be having. So if you notice, all these authors have taken their own sweet time to identify their niche and then write about something and be so expressive that the readers are able to get a gist of what they want to say. I hope you're getting all this. Anyway, the first point in requirements was basically to read every day. The second point in that is basically to hone your grammatical skills. Now, you have to remember that any language, like I said, any language, in whichever language you want to communicate in, it has to follow a correct syntax, a correct structure, because that will enable you to gain respectability, credibility, and authority of the piece that you have written. So once you are confident that your piece speaks volume or your piece is perfect, that's when you will be confident enough to give it to someone to publish it, pitch it to some publisher, or post it publicly so that others can read. Another thing about language is it's called, or it's said to be, the garment of the soul. So if your language is weak, it basically shows how careless you are to improvise on that. Now, I understand the situation perfectly well for the ones who do not have access to resources to improve on the language. The question is, if you are not thorough with one language, why don't you write in your native language? There is a misconception, I think, in all our minds that if we don't speak in English or if we don't write in English, it will not be acceptable by the society. But that's not true. You write in Hindi, Hindi authors are equally famous, Kannada authors are equally famous. It just matters that you write, whatever you write correctly. There's also a quote that I can recall of, that's whatever you write bravely. Now that bravery can only come when you're confident of what you have written. So that's why language plays a major role. Now I have some suggestions on how to improve your grammar, because that is what I did. After my college, I enrolled in a lot of online courses. Now you would be aware of EDX and Udemy. There is another site, that's British Council. So I enrolled in online grammar courses in that. And those were the free courses. But because I wanted to be a certified learner, I enrolled for a certificate program. You can do the same thing. You can spend a week or two, because those courses are very short. They mention that it will go on for 6 to 7 weeks, but eventually you can finish it in 2 weeks. So learn about the language, learn about the basics of punctuation, the basics of not using contractions, not using esoteric terms. All these problems in writing have to be avoided in order to be confident with what you are writing. Okay, now another thing in honing your grammatical skills is that you have to avoid 3 things. Just remember, you have to avoid 3 things. One is contractions. Now this is what we teach in schools, because the current trend is we have become so used to using short forms. I think you would be very much aware when you text your friends. How many of you use full sentences to text your friends or family members or anyone for that matter? Just please put up your hand or give me a thumbs up if you use full sentences to text. I am very sure, the friends that I know of, they don't use full sentences, and I was mocked at when I started to use full sentences. This was around 4 years back. I decided, and I was very resolute about it, that I'm going to use full sentences, full words when I am communicating with anyone, whether it's over the text or whether it is a Facebook status. But I was very sure that I will not use contractions. Contractions basically means words like don't, shouldn't, wouldn't. Instead of that apostrophe that you place in place of a missing letter, it's better to type it in full. I'm very happy to see Miss Anju and Miss Rupa saying that they use full sentences. I'm very glad that you guys use full sentences. So there are some people that do use full sentences. Now, other than contractions, you need to avoid using esoteric terms. Esoteric terms basically refers to the kind of lingo that the millennial generation is using. Not only millennial, I think as adults we also engage sometimes because we think it is cool. Like, for example, words like peeps, hi folks, hi guys, even guy is colloquial. So instead of using proper formal words, we intend on using short words like peeps, or there are other words like you, the pronoun. We prefer to cut it down and just write you. Similarly, I have also noticed that people don't understand the difference between the two words that are very similar. One is your and one is you are. So when it comes to placing an apostrophe before RE, they are totally confused. So if they are going to write, where is your book as a question, they are going to write your as YOU apostrophe RE. So they don't understand that apostrophe RE is a different word altogether. So when they do that, it really disheartens me, and that is what I want to stress. Imagine if your manuscript, imagine if your story has such errors, what impression is it going to give to the publishers? It is not going to be good. So that's why avoid esoteric terms. Once you get into the habit of writing everything in complete, in space complete, it will be easier for you. Now the third one is to avoid colloquial expressions. Colloquial expressions are basically the informal slangs that we have become used to using. Like, for example, it has taken from the West, the American words like wanna, gonna. These do exist in the dictionary, I don't deny that. The only problem is these are classified under informal slangs and they are not supposed to be used in formal writing. When you write a story, it depends on how you want to project your emotions. Okay, sorry for the break. I can see Shantanu writing there that you are right. Thanks for using it correctly. Anyway, getting back to where I stopped. When you're using colloquial expressions, I'd like to take an example here. When it was sometime in 2010, sometime there was a flow of writers who preferred writing everything in contractions, who used a language which the college students could associate with. And the books that they wrote were a hit because that was the lingo in which the college students spoke. So, okay, they were lucky enough, they were fortunate enough, but then since then, it has been a trend where every other writer that you find on internet these days is using that kind of lingo, that kind of context to convey the meaning. Now, I personally feel, and this is purely my opinion, that the language decides or determines your expressions or your feelings. So if you're using contractions, I feel the feelings are hollow and it's not being conveyed properly. Now, this might be an American culture, but even if you read American books, not all of them follow this kind of lingo. If you go back to the classics, the American authors have written certain books that includes a lot of formal writing, and that's the reason the books have been classified as classics. Okay, now that these 3 points, I'll just repeat it for you. You should avoid contractions like don't, shouldn't. You should avoid esoteric terms like peeps, you, Y as only the letter Y, and you should also avoid colloquial expressions like wanna, gonna, cause. That is again another colloquial expression. Now, in the same set, another thing that you need to focus on, that's the requirement of writing, is to basically make note of ideas. It can be an idea that pops into your head when you are in your shower. It can be an idea for writing a story. It can be an opinion that you develop when you are having a general conversation with your friends. It can be anything. It can be a descriptive, it can be a list of words that you come across and you plan on using them later. So anything that comes to your mind and you feel you can use it later in your writing, it's better to write it down. You can write it down on a piece of paper. In case you are you don't have access to paper and pen, it is better that you can put it down in your phone, because there are a lot of applications that can be used to jot down the points that you want to make note of. So make note of everything that comes to your mind. It will help you later. The last thing for this part is basically, just like I said, you have to read every day. It is very important to write every day. Writing, it's not like you decide to write today and whatever you write today evening, you'll become a superstar next morning. Writing comes over the years, and it is a very gradual process. You have to be very patient, very persistent. You have to keep on writing, because every other day you learn something new, and there is a lot of scope for improvisation. So with this, I have finished the second part of the session, that is requirements for writing. Now I would like to move on to the third part, that is basically the process of writing. Now I don't see any questions pouring in as of now, so I'll continue with with the part. In case you have any doubt, you can obviously put it down in the comment section. The third part of today's session is the process of writing. The process of writing, like I made myself very clear in the beginning, I'm not going to be discussing the publishing process, because I don't want to get into those details. I am here to just tell you how to begin writing, because there are a lot of people, and since also we are in lockdown and we have a lot of time on our hands, we can use this time productively, and in case we want to become a writer, we can use all these tips to start the process. Now I'll tell you how I started. It was in the last year of college, when I had some free time on my hands. I wanted to write about things that affected me, and that was a mix of both good things and bad things. So I basically wanted to pen them down. It started with scribbling on a piece of paper. And then when I was a little confident about the kind of words that I was using, I moved on to a notebook. I maintained a notebook and started writing there. It was not diary writing, but it was just random instances that could have had a different outcome had I responded differently. Then I moved on to writing poetry in that same notebook. And eventually I wrote my first story, picking characters from my daily life and then weaving everything together, and I ended up writing a plot. Now once that was done, I went back to just read through whatever I had written, and I was confident enough that I can put it in the public domain. That's when I began the blog. I used Google Blogger to start blogging, and this was in the year 2014. I started my blog in 2014. And by 2017, it had garnered enough readership. People were liking the content. And also, I had started doing book reviews. So authors were approaching me for reviewing their books. So all was going well. And that's when I decided to start my own website. It's called aliveshadow.com. And that's where I started posting the content. Now, the thing was, I was still unsure of posting my stories on my website. So I decided to wait for a certain time and then go back and revise on certain concepts of story building or story writing. I attended a lot of workshops based on the same thing. And once I was confident enough, I started pitching my stories to different competitions, to different publishers. And from there on, the journey started. So it took a lot of time. That was the process that I followed. I began on a very I began on the lowest level, that is writing on a piece of paper. And then eventually I moved on to publishing and putting everything out in the public domain. So that is what you have to do. The process of writing only begins when you write daily. You have to begin writing somewhere, anywhere. Some of you are very tech savvy and technology friendly, so you can type it on your phone. There's an app that I use, Jotapad, that is very good in typing or ideas or saving ideas, because everything gets saved automatically. So I use Jotapad, you can do the same, but start writing. And once you keep on writing, you can, obviously you can post Facebook statuses, but do post something substantial. So once you're posting that, you are basically inviting public opinion. And when they give you suggestions, that's a very good chance to improve. So after that, after you start writing on a piece of paper or on Jotapad or on Facebook, after you start posting statuses, it becomes quite comfortable for you to start beginning a blog or a website. Or even if you want, you can, that's when you're confident enough, that's when you can start writing your own book. So it's comfortable then. Now you have to realize a certain things, and this might come as a very harsh truth, that writing is not an easy process. For the people who believe that if a person is a writer, it's very easy for him or her to devote hardly, half an hour in a day and then finish writing. That's not how it happens. I have been doing this for 8 years now, and it is a very gradual process. In spite of the fact that I have learned so much and I am very fluent with words now, it takes a lot of time to think and draft sentences, to improvise, to proofread things, and then come up with an alternate sentence that I think will help me connect better with the readers. So it is a long, gradual process. Other than that, you also have to realize, even if you pursue writing as your passion, it is not something that you can ignore, or you can assume that if you devote 1 hour a week, it'll be fine. It's not like that. You need to invest time. You need to give it equal attention, like how you give to your job, because this is like a small baby and you have to nurture it for it to grow. It will not grow overnight. So that's why writing also is a slow process, and you have to give it a lot of time. It's not only with writing, actually. If you see, any artist, any form of art that you are a part of requires a lot of practice. And it's only with expertise that you reach a level where you can claim that you have worked really hard to be at a pedestal where you are. Now, other than that, there's one thing that I want to tell you, that there's one quote that I read recently, that success is not a destination, it's a journey. So maybe you write something today and then you get overnight success, but that success will be like a 9-day wonder. It might just vanish after a few days. So you have to realize that success is not one whole breakthrough or one big breakthrough. It is a confluence, or it is a collection of all those small moments of joy that you get once you are acknowledged, once you are praised. Whatever those small moments are, if you put all of them together, that's how you define success. So it's a journey, it's a lifelong journey. So you can keep on building up your success journey, or you can assume that whatever one breakthrough you have got, that's enough, and then you stop there. So that is the process of writing. And I have a few tips here again for this section. You can begin by writing poetry. Now there are many types of poetry, and what you can do is, I'm not going to be touching upon the types of poetry in this session, obviously, because this will take a lot of time. But you can search online. There are different forms of poetry, quartets, and then limericks are there. Whichever you find is easier for you, suppose you find the using the rhyme scheme easier, try writing poetry. Try writing short stories. But remember that your stories follow that 8-point story structure, so that the story has all the elements of a short story. Experiment with language. Try to make note of the new words that you come across. Make a list of them, write down their meaning, categorize them as a part of speech, whether you can use them as a noun or an adjective, and then try to use these words in the sentences. Another thing this reminds me of is, I always tell my students, when we were in school, we were always told to learn 5 new words on a daily basis. But I never found that useful, because I couldn't. Even if I learned 5 new words, I would forget them the next day. So what I tell my students from my experience is to learn only 2 words a day and then keep on using them in sentences of their own for an entire week. And they do it and they're happy about it. It actually works, because I've tried it on myself. Learn 2 words a day, use them in sentences when you're communicating with people, but use it correctly. Learn the context and the usability of those words and then use them correctly. Once you do that, at least those 2 words will register, and it'll be easier for you to remember those words and use them again. So that's one of the tips that I have been following throughout, and I think that will help you. Another one is the best part of writing, or what makes you a better writer or a good writer, is when you are able to express things using the least number of words. When you keep on repeating words, when you use long sentences to express something, that becomes a redundant form of writing. You don't want to do that. This comes with practice. Obviously, you can't directly start with that. So you need to get into the habit of using less words to describe more. If you remember, when we were in school, we were taught summary writing. In 10th grade boards, ICC, we had a topic called précis writing. So that we were given a bracket of 60 words and we had to summarize an entire 4-5 pages long chapter. There was a purpose of learning précis writing, because the more precise your writing is, the more impactful it becomes. So another rule of writing, you can take it as a rule of writing, is to write using less number of words, but it should be equally evocative, or it should have an equal impact. Now, other than that, you have to practice daily. That's a repetitive point, but I cannot stop emphasizing on it more. Practice daily. It has to be, it has to become a part of your routine. You cannot just leave it saying that you're busy and you don't have time. You can't do that, because if you want to pursue this as a career or even as a hobby, it needs that much of time and attention. Now, I will move on to the last section and I'll be sharing some easy tips. To begin with, you have to understand that not everybody is a versatile writer. You have to keep on experimenting, like how I took example of Nicholas Sparks and Agatha Christie, R.R. Martin, George R.R. Martin. All these authors have developed a niche for themselves. They have come to realize that they write for this particular genre and they're good at it. Now this will only come once you have experimented with the genres. So if you stick to one genre and if you're not even aware whether that is giving you the credits or whether you're getting a positive feedback, you will never know. Writing is like movie making. Now imagine if a director, now you would have seen in Bollywood how this the more meaningful movies are now being released. But not all of them are being perceived or received properly. Most of them just come and go and nobody even realizes. So that's called experimentation. You have to experiment with your writing. And you'll know which form of writing suits your personality and is received well by your readers. So that's why experiment with the genres, experiment with the forms of writing, experiment with the style of writing. Now all these are different aspects of grammar. So you need to understand the basics of grammar so that you understand these literary terms. Now again, once you start experimenting, there will come a time where you will understand that readers want you to write on a certain topics. For example, there are people on Facebook, there are authors on Facebook who, other than writing a story or a novel, they also post opinions about what is going on around them. And their opinions are received very positively. So which gives them a possibility, or which gives them that liberty to write opinionated pieces or editorials for newspapers. And they are doing that. So that is the purpose of experimenting. So the first tip is to experiment with forms of writing, style of writing, and also different genres. The second is to see, when I say read every day, it doesn't mean that you pick up everything that is there in your house and start reading. You might just fall asleep. And there is something called passive reading. You might become a victim of that. If something doesn't interest you, it's more like you read it, you just browse through the pages, but nothing actually goes into your head. The term for this is passive reading, because you don't retain anything, you don't imbibe anything. So that is the reason you should pick the books that interest you. Some of you might be interested in thrillers, some of you might be interested in just reading a newspaper or just the entertainment section or the sports section. Read only that part that interests you, because that will give you the chance to imbibe or to absorb the knowledge that is there in that piece. Don't simply read just because everyone is telling you to read. Third point is basically not to follow the trend. Now this is something that I think everyone does. If you see, for example, this was I think 2-3 days back, my Instagram was flooded with the posts related to that boys' locker room news, an incident that happened in Delhi. So every other person was posting their opinions about boys' locker room, and I couldn't help but notice the points were repetitive. So don't follow the trend. If you want to write on a viral topic, please ensure that you are well informed. You should not give your readers a chance to point out a flaw and say that you are not well informed, because that basically kills the purpose of your writing. If you have an opinion, surround it or scaffold it with strong arguments and strong justifications so that it's something new, because nobody likes to read what is already there in the public domain. So this is the third one. Fourth one, I would like to stress again on editing and proofreading. Once you finish writing your piece, it is very important to go back, proofread. Proofreading is basically when you try to switch or change the words that you're not comfortable or convinced with better words. So once you try proofreading and editing, only then you should send it or you should publish it on any social media handle. So editing and proofreading form a very major part of writing. Now after that, one very important point is to be open-minded. Now any form of art invites a lot of criticism. So you have to be ready to accept what the people have to say. If you don't keep an open mind, the criticism is bound to pull you down. and you should not be afraid of that. If you are, see, you have to understand the logistics behind this. If you are putting out something in the public domain, you are, in a way, subtle way, you are inviting comments, you are inviting suggestions, you are inviting criticism, be it positive or negative. It depends on you how you're going to filter the content or how you're going to filter the criticism. Focus on only the good comments and the ones that actually help you improve, rather than focusing on the ones that mock you. So don't be bound by the criticism. Instead, use it for your benefit and rise above that. Another point related to this is stay highly motivated. Now, this is basically related to the forms of media that have come. We have a lot of options these days. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. All these forms of media give us a lot of chance, in fact, gives chance to every other person to post whatever he or she thinks. Since the number of platforms have increased, obviously the number of writers has increased. So there are a lot, umpteen numbers of writers in the market. So you should not be scared by the frequency of the upcoming writers or the number of upcoming writers. Instead, you should focus on how you can make a difference for yourself. So don't be boggled by however many writers are coming and posting things. It is important that you stand out from the rest, and that's why I suggest that you focus on quality and content rather than the frequency of write-ups. It's very important that the quality and content are standing out and are better. The last one is always seek feedback and suggestions. It is a very nice way to look up to your teachers, the ones who have taught you in school, or look up to the authors who are already published, who already established a niche in this field. It is very genuine gesture to seek suggestions and feedback, to ask them for help, to ask them how to fine tune your editorials or your write-ups, because they would be more than eager to help. I have a few authors who are always ready to help me whenever I seek help. In fact, when I was pitching my book for publication, I had to seek help of a lot of authors because I had no clue of the process. If you hesitate to do so, that's where you go wrong, because you should be very much open-minded in seeking help. People are ready to help. You just have to reach out. Like it says in Harry Potter, Hogwarts will help for the ones who reach out to the school. Same way, try to reach out to as many people as possible, take their suggestion, take their feedback, and eventually it'll all turn out to be good. Now, I think this is all that I had prepared for today's session. So I'm just going to quickly browse through the questions if you have any. Just give me a moment to check. Or if you have a question at this moment, please put it down in the comment section and I'll just address it. I can see Shantanu has one question. He asks, can I use lingos when writing about what a character is quoting? Yes, that is absolutely fine. That is the local dialect. And if you're putting it in double quotes, that basically signifies or hints to the point that the local dialect spoken there in the setting, that can be used. That is allowed. That is totally acceptable. But please ensure that it is not there in the part. See, I think you are aware of the concept of reported speech. Now, reported speech is basically when you report what someone else is saying. So if you want to quote a local dialect of a character, you can put it in double quotes and use that lingo. Like he says, he wants to say, he said, I'm gonna run now. You can use that lingo. Just ensure that when you are using descriptive writing, you don't end up using gonna wanna. Other than that, I don't think there are any more questions. So I think I'll just put an end to the session. Okay, so I want to begin by thanking Rahul for inviting me to give this speech sort of thing, one-way lecture, and share my experience. So it's a great opportunity. Thank you, Rahul. I would also like to thank all the people who joined me today to view this session, taking out time from their busy schedules. In case you have any questions and if you're not able to post it in the comments now, or if you're viewing this video later, you can always reach out to me on my Facebook page. Other than that, I hope that this session helps you in future. And thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye.